everyone, my name is Farhanah Haura Maulidina Almakawi, and today I'd like to share my opinion about something we often see but rarely talk about seriously: smoking in campus areas. I know this topic can be a little controversial because some people believe smoking is a personal right, while others think it should be completely banned in public spaces. But personally, I believe smoking should not be allowed in campus areas, or at least it should only be done in specific smoking zones. So let's think about it for a moment. Have you ever walked around campus enjoying the fresh air and suddenly caught a strong smell of cigarette smoke? It's honestly unpleasant, right? This issue of smoking in campus areas affects not only the smokers themselves, but also everyone around them. First of all, let's talk about health. It's no secret that smoking is dangerous. Cigarettes contain thousands of harmful chemicals, and secondhand smoke can be just as harmful as smoking itself. That means even people who don't smoke end up suffering the consequences. A campus should be a place that supports students' growth, both mentally and physically. But how can we say a campus promotes a healthy environment if the air is filled with cigarette smoke? Secondhand smoke can cause headaches, breathing problems, and long term health issues. Some students might have asthma or allergies that get triggered easily by smoke. It's unfair for them to have to deal with that just because some people choose to smoke wherever they like. Everyone has the right to clean air, especially in an educational environment. Next, there's also the issue of discipline image. A university or college represents knowledge, professionalism, and good behavior. When visitors or new students come to a campus and see cigarette butts scattered around or people smoking right near the classroom, it gives a bad impression. It makes the environment look messy and unorganized. A smoke-free campus, on the other hand, shows that the institution really cares about order and responsibility. Now, to be fair, I understand that smoking is a personal choice. Some students or even staff members may feel that banning smoking completely is too strict. But that's why creating designated smoking areas is a reasonable compromise. These areas can be placed far from classrooms, libraries, and cafeterias. That way, smokers still have their space and non smokers can breathe comfortably. It's not about judging or controlling people, it's about respecting everyone's comfort and health. Lastly, I think universities should also educate students about the impact of smoking, not just prohibit it. As campaigns, posters, or seminars can help people understand why these rules exist. When people understand the reasons behind the regulations, they are more likely to follow them willingly rather than just out of fear of punishment. In conclusion, smoking in campus areas might seem like a small issue to some, but it actually has big consequences. It affects health, cleanliness, and even the overall image of the university. A smoke free campus isn't just about banning cigarettes, it's about creating a space that respects care, respect, and responsibility. If we want our campuses to be places where students can truly learn, grow, and stay healthy, then keeping them smoke free is definitely the right step forward. Thank you for listening and goodbye.
Good morning, everyone. On this occasion, I am going to talk about adverbs of frequency. Throughout this presentation, we'll explore what they are, how they're classified, where to place them in a sentence, and how to use them correctly through examples and short exercises. So let's begin by understanding what an adverb of frequency actually means. An adverb of frequency tells us how often something happens. It modifies a verb to show the regularity of an action. For example, words like always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, and never describe how frequent something occurs. These adverbs help give more details to a sentence. Instead of just saying, I go to the gym, we can say, I usually go to the gym, which gives a clearer picture of our habits. Now that we understand what an adverb of frequency is, let's take a look at what role it plays in a sentence. The main function of adverbs of frequency is to express routine and habits. They tell us how regularly an activity takes place, whether it happens every day, from time to time, or not at all. For instance, if we say she always drinks coffee in the morning, we know it's part of her daily routine. So basically, this adverb makes our sentences sound more specific and informative. And next, let's move on to the two main types of frequency adverbs that we commonly use in English. There are two main types of adverbs of frequency, definite and indefinite. Definite adverbs describe an exact number or interval, like once a day, twice a week, or every month. And indefinite adverbs don't tell us exactly how many times, but rather how often in general. Words like always, often, or sometimes. Knowing the difference helps us decide when we want to be specific and when we just want to give a general idea. So let's focus first on the indefinite ones, since those are used more often in daily English. Here's a list of the most common indefinite frequency adverbs. We have always, meaning something happens all the time. Usually, meaning almost all the time. Often for actions that occur quite regularly. Sometimes for occasional actions. Rarely for actions that don't happen very often. And never, meaning it doesn't happen at all. For example, she always wakes up early. They often play basketball, or he never smokes. These adverbs help us express habits in a very natural way. Now, what about when we want to talk about something that happens at specific intervals? That's when definite adverbs come in. Definite adverbs of frequency are used when we can measure how often something happens. For instance, we say once a day, twice a week, three times a month, or every year. These phrases are especially common when describing schedules or planned routines. For example, I go jogging twice a week. So the main difference is that definite adverbs show measurable frequency while indefinite ones are more general. Now that we know the types, let's look at where these adverbs usually appear in a sentence. So when we use adverbs of frequency with simple present verbs, they usually go before the main verb. For example, she often studies at night. But if the verb is to be, like am, is, or are, then the adverb comes after it. So he is always late. He is always on time. Keeping this position correct makes our sentences sound more naturally and grammatically accurate. However, sometimes we use helping verbs or modal verbs. Let's see how the rules changes in those cases. When a sentence includes an auxiliary or a modal verb, the adverb goes between the auxiliary or modal and the main verb. For example, you can always call me, or they have never been to Japan. And notice how the adverb comes in the middle, right? That's the most natural place in English. It keeps the meaning clear and the sentence is easy to follow. Now that we know the position for basic sentences, Let's see how adverbs work in questions and negative sentences. In questions, adverbs of frequency are usually placed before the main verb or after to be. For instance, do you often watch TV? Or is he always busy? And in negative sentences, they go after don't or doesn't. So we say she doesn't usually eat breakfast. And remember, we can use not, never, not and never together. She never eats breakfast is correct, but she doesn't never eat breakfast is not. Sometimes word order can also change the tone or emphasis of a sentence. Let's take a quick look at that. Placing an adverb at the beginning or end of a sentence can slightly change the emphasis. For example, sometimes I work late sounds more thoughtful, while I work late sometimes feels more conversational. Both are correct though, but for formal writing or presentations, it's best to follow the standard structure before the main verb or after to be. So now let's review some of the most common mistakes learners make with frequency adverbs. Many learners place adverbs in the wrong position. For example, people often say he always is late, but the correct version is he is always late. Another mistake is I go always to school, but it should be I always go to school. Also, never use double negatives like she doesn't never study. Instead, say she never studies. These are simple mistakes, but visiting them make, makes a big difference in clarity. Now that we know where to place adverbs and what to avoid, let's talk about how to choose the right type depending on the context. When you want to give an exact frequency, use definite adverbs. For example, I take this medicine twice a day. But when you want to express habits or general behavior, use indefinite ones like I often read before bed. So it really depends on whether you're describing a routine specifically or just talking about general habits. So let's move on to some examples in full sentences to see how these adverbs work naturally in daily contexts. So here are some examples that use the adverbs we've been discussing. First one is I always brush my teeth before bed. Second is we usually study together after class. Third is they sometimes visit their grandparents. Fourth is he rarely eats junk food. And fifth is I never forget my homework. So notice that the adverbs are placed before the main verb or after to be, right? These examples show how we can use frequency adverbs naturally in everyday sentences. So next, let's test our understanding with a few short practice questions. Now it's time for a short activity. Try to fill in the blanks using the correct adverbs of frequency based on the percentage or context given. For example, number one, she blah 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 goes to the gym is 70%, and the correct answer would be usually. So this kind of exercise helps us not only remember the meaning of each adverb, but also where to place them correctly in a sentence. And finally, let's summarize everything we've learned today. To summarize, adverbs of frequency describe how often something happens. They can be definite, like once a week, or indefinite, like usually or never. The position is depends on the verb before main verb, after to be, and between auxiliaries or modals and the main verb. By using these adverbs correctly, our sentences become clearer and more accurate when describing habits or routines. So, thank you so much for listening. I hope these presentations helps you understand adverbs of frequency more confidently. And goodbye.